Please welcome JobNimbus CEO Ben Hodson and growth partner at Sumeru Equity Partners, Chris Litster.
I think some of those people work for us.
Just a few of them. Awesome. Well, Ben, thank you for asking me to be part of this event with you. It's great to be with you here this morning. We've known each other now for almost a year and had some great discussions. But I think the discussions I like the most is when we've just had that free time where you and I can just riff on our leadership philosophy.
Yeah.
And those things that, through the years that you've seen at JobNimbus and I've seen at the various companies I've been involved with, that are really kind of those folklore moments that help us with our culture and our mission. And I was wondering if over, since you've been with JobNimbus, are there some of those folklore moments that you look back? I'd like to think that the one that happened in the fall when we announced our partnership is going to be a folklore moment. But are there any of those moments that you can look back that had a real impact on you and then really have become kind of the foundation of helping with JobNimbus's culture and your mission? And I'd just love to hear about it, if you could share a couple of those.
The thing that started coming into my mind several years ago was the amount of sacrifice that was made to get the company to where it is right now by so many team members and by my partners and all that. So I think back to the early days, and I think a lot of the success we have today is because of that sacrifice. And I'll give you an example. I'd be really open and honest and raw with the audience here, but in 2015, 2016, we're just barely profitable. And we're bootstrapped. So we have no outside funding. And the way we would pay ourselves is that we would first pay all the employees, then we would pay all of our vendor bills. We've got like software costs and all that kind of stuff to keep this product running, right? Then we would put money in savings. Because this is my 10th business. I've done it wrong several times, and I'll tell you, there's always something that comes up. The IRS suddenly tells you owe them $5,000. You're like, what? And you don't have the money to fight it, and you're not going to win anyways. And if you don't have money, you're screwed, So we would put money in savings, and then whatever was left was what we would live off of. And there were months where we were living off of $300 or $400, enough for food and gas. Really, I had 2 young kids, my wife, very, very hard. Yeah. And we saw the company growing every month, but it was slow growth because you're bootstrapped. You don't ever have enough resources, frankly, no matter how much money. Even if you raise $330 million, there's not enough resources ever to do what you want to do. So
we'll talk about that after.
So we would go through and pay our own bills in very clever ways. And I'm certainly not advocating this to the audience, but at one point I was 5 months behind on my house payment, like right on the edge of foreclosure, but I saw the company was getting better every month. My partner Nick was in the same boat as me, and we were sort of commiserating together, and we were slowly digging our way out of that and seeing the company like sort of snowball, but it was a slow process. And I remember coming home, and by the way, if you don't pay your house payment for 1 month, they send you all these nasty calls and emails. If you don't pay for 2 months, then they start sending people out, and they take pictures of the house, and they put notices on your house. And it was like very disturbing to come home from work, and like pull a pink notice off my house, and my neighbor's like, "Hey, everything good? Oh yeah, it's going great," And then if you don't pay for 3 months, they start foreclosing. But if you found a way to pay for 1 month somewhere in there, you could work with their team to get them to extend out the time because they're hoping you don't default. Right. And so I was like basically just hanging by a thread and getting through that period. It seems crazy to a lot of people. It frankly even seems crazy a little bit in my head now. But that sacrifice, those types of things mattered a lot because what you were doing is you were focusing more and more on the mission and why.
Yeah.
You don't do that unless you truly believe. And I think belief is a superpower. And so that belief then spiraled. So you talk about the company mission and vision and everything. It really comes out of that catalyst of doing things because you believe in them, because you have conviction, and because you want to change the world, you want to make impact, not because you're chasing the money, because that won't get you there.
And did that lead to or contribute to the mission that I know you and our friends out in the audience, as well as everybody back at the audience, of the hero's journey? Like, did that contribute to that idea of
Yes.
JobNimbus?
You know that I have like this lots of interests, and even though I'm running the company and that's my main focus in life, I'm an amateur musician and put out new music on Spotify and Apple Music often. I am a writer, and I've written a book, and I've written many comic books, and so I think a lot about heroes' stories. I've even written a couple films that got made. And so through that process, I'm thinking about it, and we were thinking about our customer, which is a construction contractor. And everybody has a story about how their contractor sort of let them down. Everybody gets really pissed off about certain contractors they've worked with. It's kind of crazy. So we said, wait a minute, what if we built software that made them the best contractor you ever worked with? That was the catalyst of the idea back in the early days of JobNimbus. And we sort of merged that into this mission statement that's very simple and aspirational to make contractors heroes to their customers, heroes to their families. And that then was the catalyst to build out the full software suite that we have today. And of course, then we say, how do you make somebody a hero? And I started thinking about all these stories I've written and the hero's journey. And then we said, why don't we make that the core part of our software mission, is to make them heroes using the hero's journey? And then why don't we also make that the core of our culture? Why don't we say everybody here is on a hero's journey to get better in life? And the duality of that is super cool and super powerful.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we noticed right away at Sumeru when we started talking with you. And we've each had the opportunity to scale companies through the various stages of growth. And you, my friend, you're right now going through some great growth, and congrats on that. You've taken JobNimbus from that core team, and now I think it's upwards of 230 employees. And the hero's journey contributing to employees feeling really, really valued. And can you talk about like what you and the team have put in place to ensure that you never forget that employers are humans, right? And humans just want to feel valued. They want to contribute. They want to be respected. And when you drive a company through that crazy growth, sometimes those things might be forgotten. So what have you put in place that they endure, they grow, and they are just the part that's going to help contribute to your ongoing growth?
Culture is the most important thing for me. A business is only two things: people and process. And the people are the real X factor in that, right? And so when you look at two companies in the same space, a lot of times when you look at their story 5-10 years out, you'll see that one that maybe was even better funded, that seemed like it had a better product, failed, and the other one succeeded. And when you dig in over and over, you will see it's because of the people that the success happens, right? This comes through in tons of science and research on this. So I'm very, very big on the people side of things, and that must mean you have an incredible culture. And we work on this every day. It's a constant project to be the best culture. Frankly, our goal is to be the best culture in the US, like of any company. Like that's what we're trying to do right now. And there's a bunch of different ways we do that. Some of the unique things that we have that maybe I haven't seen other companies do. For instance, I know this is something that Sumeru thought was cool when they first came into our office, but we have this section of the office called the Learning Lab. Our customers are like roofers, fencing companies, solar companies, this type of thing. And we have an area of the office that we built out a little mini roof and a solar installation and a fence and the siding and gutters. And then we've also set up that part of the office like the office of our customer. So they usually have an office manager, they are owners in the office, they've got a production person that manages all the installs and the crews, and then they have a sales rep. And so we have different areas in the office in that little area called the Learning Lab. And every employee on their second day goes through the Learning Lab. And the way we do this is we first have you go in and do the job of our customer. Because what you're trying to do is like, how do you build empathy for your customer? Like me being the founder, I have massive care for the customer, right? Like how do you get everybody new to come in and care as much about customers as you do? Well, it has to start with empathy. So they come in there and they do the jobs of everybody and they go, wow, this is really hard. Most of our people are software people, so they've never done this kind of stuff, right? Then we teach you the JobNimbus app. And then you go back and you do the job again with the app. And you go, oh, you go from paper to the JobNimbus app. I see. So you're learning the value of the product, you're learning how we help customers, and you're also feeling what it feels like to be the customer learning this thing. We also do an escape room in there where you have to name every piece and part because it's if you call up, a roofer calls you up and says underlayment and you don't know what it is, it's not good news, okay? They do not react well to that. So we want to make sure all our people know all the terms, everything about the industry, and so they have to do an escape room where they learn all that stuff. And they come out of there with a different experience and a different care for a customer. One of our values is customer obsessed, and that's how we start that customer obsession.
It's awesome. And yeah, we definitely took note of that learning lab the first day, and I think we all said, give us a hammer, let's get at it. And we do all know now what an underlayment is, so thank you very much.
You know what's funny about this? We have customers come in the office, and then we'll show them the learning lab. They love it. They think it's so cool. But then they're always like, man, that roof is really poorly made. I'm like, we're not you guys, okay? We did the best we could, but they noticed.
Exactly. Okay, so let's talk about the little announcement back in the fall, where we announced our partnership with JobNimbus, with Sumeru's investment of $330 million into the company. And what we believe, I think you've validated this, is the largest Series B in the history of Utah. Super excited.
Wow.
And I think, we pretty much know there are a lot of other firms and companies looking to partner with you.
Yeah.
So go and making the decision to bringing on a partner to the size that came on with us, as the size of the check, I guess is what I'm trying to say, is a big decision for CEO and executive team to make. It's, numbers of us have done it. It takes a lot of thinking about what it's going to look like day plus one, the day after the deal, right? What can you share with folks here that may be on the verge, might be a year from now, 6 months, whatever, CEOs and execs here that are thinking about it, thinking on bringing in an investment partner, and what were you looking for in a partner?
Yeah.
And what were also the red lines that you're not looking for and not interested in?
The first thing I want everybody to know is that the reason you should raise money is when you have a growth story, when you're ready to grow with it. Never raise money when you need it just to survive, unless you want to lose your whole company. I've done that, by the way. So
have I.
Yes. And it's like, oh, wow, I went from 55% ownership to 4% ownership in one day. Wow. Okay. And then, of course, the culture's not the same. The mission doesn't stay intact the same way. It's very hard, very hard. Made it through. Some of those companies are successful. A lot weren't, though, because you really need the beating heart of the team to get to do something super special and monumental, frankly. So always, always, always have a growth story, and that's what we had. This was a great growth story, and so we had a lot of interest. You're right. Like, really, we probably talked to 35 firms, and of those paired it back to about 10 that we spent a lot of real time with, and then we had like 5 term sheets that we were kind of working with. And you guys immediately bubbled to the top the first time we met you. You knew the market better than anybody else. It's very embarrassing when an investor comes in and says, hey, what do you think about this competitor? And you're like, that's not a competitor. We've never even heard of that person. So we love that you guys knew the market. You understood our customer in a deeper level. And you spent a lot of time on the customer problem instead of retention metrics, which are important, by the way. But you can totally tell the people that care about the business and the customer and the people that care about just the fundamental SaaS metrics and we're just investing in this because we like the metrics. You want somebody that actually cares and believes in the business, and that was one thing that came through. There were other people that showed really well also, but nobody had the conviction at the same level that you guys did, and it showed in the check size. I mean, that was incredible. It was a stretch for Sumeru, I think, even at the time. And so it was awesome to see you guys' belief in the mission, the vision, what we were trying to do, and the growth plan, the next 5 years. But the biggest thing was you guys were good people. Gosh, I've worked with investors that were great people and investors that were not as great people. That's a nice way of putting it. And I will tell you that I'm 49 years old, I will not work with anybody that is not a good person. I want people that care about others, that want to do the right thing, but frankly, doing the right thing always makes the most value for the company long run. Even in the short term, it might hurt. Yeah. So Sumeru has done that. And you know what's great is that the first board meeting we had a month ago, it would, like everything that I thought I had vetted you on was true. You guys were exactly the people that I felt so good. Because I did a lot of back channeling, a lot of your
we
CEOs.
Know.
I was like, I will not, no, we're not doing this unless they're the right people.
Yeah, and I think, just to add on that, you can actually, I think, turn a mirror on everything you just said for the things that we were looking for, right? Most certainly a growth story, most certainly alignment, right? So we obviously we got to know not only you and your executive team, but also your leadership team and a number of the employees throughout the company. And without fail, we understood that everyone was aligned with the big mission and the big goal and the idea of helping your customers become heroes to change their lives, frankly. And it's one of the great things about working in like a small to medium-sized customer base, because if you do it right, you can change your customers' lives. And we were impressed from, again, the very first meeting about the passion that you had. It was, yes, you all knew the metrics, and yes, you all knew your business model, but there was that essence there. And frankly, we also knew that there was an opportunity from a market perspective, which is another key thing that we were looking for. And then in the end, is it the team that we wanted to partner with? And without fail, I've worked with other investment companies as well, and I've been on the other side of the table, and you always hear about team. And the first time I worked in an investment company, it was, okay, I'm going to scratch at that to see if that's really true. And it is, and it's important because obviously you're the driving force. Your team is the driving force that will get you there.
Yeah.
And so thank you for that, and we couldn't be more excited. One thing I also know about you and learn from you is that without fail, with every meeting, you want to do a wrap-up to say what we just discussed, identify takeaways, and then have any kind of last words, if you will. So I'll turn it to you to say, do you have any takeaways here for both CEOs, executives, but also folks that may be here looking for their next gig with the next company? So I'll give you the floor to address those two audiences.
I'll just say, if you're looking for a company that is doing good in the world, that's making a difference, where you can do meaningful work that you're proud of every day and work with incredible people, we would love to talk to you. We are obviously hiring right now, so we'd love to have you on the team. If you are an entrepreneur or in a business right now and trying to grow it, here's a couple thoughts. A lot of people have asked me about raising money. This is the biggest round I've ever raised. I've raised a lot of money in my career, and there's a couple of things. It's not really secrets, but I will tell you, you have to be more systematic than most people are. Most founders hate raising money. It's like the worst thing in the world because it takes you away from the business, and it was a major distraction this year, 100%. But a long time ago, maybe 7, 8 years ago for me, I said, what if I tried to get good at raising money since I hate it too? And so I really leaned into why not just embrace the suck of it and actually love it and figure out how to get good at it. And a couple things came out of that I found that are somewhat unique. One is I kind of came up with a matrix of how I would assess the investor, because it flips the table to hold on. You guys don't just get a seat at the table here with me unless you fit my rubric. Right. So There's a whole cultural assessment I do with, and I have scoring. I try to take all these qualitative things and I score them on a 1 to 10 basis on how culturally aligned are they in the values, on what our culture is. We have a whole bunch of cultural definitions and that sort of thing. We have a JobNimbus operating system that we run off of. That's our cultural template. And so we scored you guys on that. There's a whole alignment on how much do they understand the market and believe what we believe about our plan. There's a whole scoring system around what we would do with the money, how aligned we are on the budget of how we would spend the money. There's all these details that we would go through with you guys, and you scored the highest by far of anybody that we were talking to. And so I knew going in that it was going to be a great experience because we'd done so much homework. The other thing I did, I back-channeled 5 to 8, I can't remember exactly, of your CEOs, many that you did not introduce me to. And understood and I got them, I'm pretty good at getting people to say what's on their mind. So they were like, okay, well, sure. Like, tell me about the time that you guys super disagreed on the board. How did that work? And what, and I got into the details. And without fail, they're like, no, these guys were very reasonable. They're very calm in stressful situations. That's really important to me because something's going to go wrong in the business all the time, always does. And so you want to have somebody that's there working the problem with you, not pointing fingers. So I give you that as just some advice, like come up with a system of how you're going to assess the investor. Second thing is make sure that you have something that is of value. So the most important thing to focus on is building a business that has a great growth trajectory, has consistent results, and also a really strong 5-year plan about what you're trying to do over the next 5 years. Because why would somebody put $330 million in a JobNimbus? Because they believe that we can turn that money into a much larger number over 5 years because of the historical data we have combined with the plan that has been vetted through third-party research and all that stuff and just the company you're running. So really important for you to create something of value more than try to go get people to give you money. So the third thing I'd say is try to get multiple people involved. There is pressure. A private equity firm or venture capital wants to win a deal. If they lean in, they're going to push hard on the valuation and go up on it if they feel like there's competition and they really have a strong conviction. So we had a good, all three of these things working out. Now, I will tell you that if you raise $330 million, it sounds great. I think everybody's like, oh, I'd love to raise the biggest Series B in Utah history. It's fun. But I think a lot of people like the notoriety of it, but not what comes with it. Because what comes with it is massive stress and pressure, which I happily signed up for because I want to make big impact. And nothing of value comes in this world without making sacrifice and taking on pressure and stress. Now, I happen to handle stress pretty well. But still, I'm taking on a lot of pressure because now I have to go do something that, frankly, almost no other company's ever done in Utah. And we have to do over a 5-year period. I believe we can. You guys believe we can. Yep. But it's not easy. And so you have to know going in. If you take money, there's responsibility with it too.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, speaking of comm, we have actually one of our co-founders and MDs here with us, Jason Babcock, and he's the king of comm. So I'm glad you called that out. It's awesome. Well, Ben, this was great. Thank you again for asking me up here. Always take the chance to just riff with you on things. And I think, the last thing we'll say is let's go make some great heroes together and get after it. So thank you.
So I will just end by telling you guys, if you are looking for investment, I do think Sumeru is a great firm that you guys should really take a look at. And that's one of the reasons I want them up here is I'd love more companies in Utah to be a part of the portfolio. And then on the other side of the coin, I would love, if you're trying to build a business, I hope that you come away from this going, okay, Ben is just some guy, and everything's attainable. I could totally do this. He's just a reasonable, hopefully reasonable, normal guy doing his thing. I can do this too, okay? I want to inspire people out there that want to go make impact because we need you in this world. And then if you're somebody looking to join a team, JobNimbus would love to have you. Please come join up.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the conference and the show, and we'll see you on the floor. Thank you.